Hello again, and here we are at Perfectly Paranormal, episode 144. My name's Annaschmidt, and I'm here every week to share with you true paranormal encounters and information about devils, demons, and dark energy beings that no one else talks about. They truly don't. And today you're going to learn the difference between demons and jinn. We're going to look at their behaviours and their tactics towards us. And also, this is quite funny or quite interesting, how I was first confused when I spoke with a religious demonologist who explained the natures and the differences between these two types of beings. And it really did get me wondering what I've been clearing from homes and other places all of these years. Now, has it been jinn or dark and demonic entities? Or all of them? It really is a little bit complicated, and you're going to see why. Now, I'm always open to new perspectives, and I really did appreciate the information that this religious demonologist shared. It was totally fascinating, and it sent me on a deep dive, looking at more information about jinn. Now, jinn, spelt D-J-I-N-N, or spelt J-I-N-N, or genies, like the blue guy from the Aladdin movies, are they all the same? Well, I don't know all the information about this, so excuse me if I make some mistakes, but I did do some research. Now, are they all the same? Kind of yes and no. There are defined differences. Now, the name jinn is derived from the Arabic, now I don't know if I'm going to say this properly. I'll spell it. How does that sound? I-J-T-I-N-A-N. I have no idea how to say that, so you've just got the spelling, which means to be concealed from sight. They're also said to be made of smokeless fire. So jinn are ancient entities. They're unseen, powerful influences and possibly shapeshifters originating in Islamic and Middle Eastern lore. Now, their behaviours, they're quite different from demonic entities. Jinn can be good, evil, or neutral. And where the word genie it's a kind of a westernised term that describes the magical servant that is attached to an object, sort of sitting about to do the will of the object's owner by granting wishes. Jinn don't do that. They are very similar to demonic entities, where you're going to hear the similarities, but you're also going to hear the differences. So whereas I said that jinn can be good, evil, or neutral, demonic entities are described in the Bible as pure evil. They are just pure evil. They hate God, they hate man, they hate everything that isn't dark and disastrous. There's a whole story behind that, and I might get into that in another episode. But the evil jinn, now these are interesting. I did lots and lots of research, and I've linked some of my references, some of the better references that I looked at in the transcript. Now, the evil jinn, they can possess people in a similar fashion to other demonic entities, and they can affect people's emotions and their mental health and possibly their physical health. And it's kind of difficult to pick the differences between the two types of entities, unless you would be experienced with understanding the differences. Like my religious demonology friend, she understands the differences between the two types of entities. In the past, I've just kind of lumped them all into, they were either spirits, elementals, or dark and demonic entities. Because I never ever thought that jinn would possibly be anywhere other than in the Middle East, which is very, very limited thinking, because there are multicultural people all over the world. And I'm sure that these entities are all over the world. A lot of the references I looked at online said that they are everywhere. So I've got a funny little anecdote to tell you later. It was quite hilarious about another episode I did, which I think was about a jinn and not a demonic entity. So I'm the first one to put my hand up when I make a mistake. Like, seriously, well, it's not really a mistake. It's more I just didn't have the information at the time. But now I look at it, I had this kind of aha moment, and I'll be sharing that very, very soon. So free will. Now, free will is a big one. The one major difference between jinn and demons is that jinn have free will. They are beings that can choose to interact with us or not to interact with us, and it's always on their own terms, which is interesting because a lot of the entities I come across in places, homes, or sometimes people can choose where to go after they leave the location or the client. Like they don't go back to hell, or they don't go back to the devil's headquarters where all the demons hang out. These beings are in the environment. So some of them might be demons, but some of them might be jinn. It's a little bit complicated, but I'm just putting out another perspective, something else to rattle your brains when it comes to thinking about lower vibrational beings. So demonic entities, they don't have free will. They don't get to choose what they do. They are ordered about by God and the devil. It's kind of complicated. Because if you look at where demons came from, they are fallen angels. So initially they were connected to high vibrational beings and to God. So they kind of are still connected to God. He uses them as, I know God's not a he, but we're just going to go with that. So I don't want to offend anyone. I find that it would be a rather worse word to use. So God utilizes these dark beings as eternal workers, and they're told what to do in the earth environment. They're just sent here. They're sent here to challenge us and tempt us and test our faith in ourselves, our faith in whichever religious beliefs we have or don't have. And the evil jinn can be a little bit like that too. That devil that sits on your shoulder, sort of whispering in your ears. Now, I have an experience to share with you, just a quick one, which I think now is related to a jinn and not a demonic entity, which I thought it was initially. I probably mentioned this story before, but we're just going to go over it again because it came to mind when I was writing notes for this episode. I once had what I called a defector entity that appeared over my bed one night. Now, I was just getting into bed and like it's your normal routine. I'm getting into bed and there's these red eyes that appeared sort of over my bed. And I'm sitting there looking at them wide awake. No alcohol, no drugs, no nothing. Nothing to interfere with my brain processing. I was wide awake. It takes me ages to get to sleep. And I'm sitting there and I'm in the dark and I'm looking at these eyes. Now, these eyes were rather interesting because this being communicated by closing his eyes once for yes and twice for no, which is interesting because I think they've been watching what we do with our paranormal investigation devices. I have an EMF detector with a red light at the front and it flicks once for yes or twice for no. That's how the spirits let me know answers sort of to my questions or if they want to tell me something. So that's what this being was doing. I'm sitting there and I'm looking at him going, can I help you? I didn't know what else to say. What else do you say when there's a pair of red eyes looking at you over your bed? This being didn't harm me in any way. It was just there, very quiet, very patient, and he wanted to transition into the higher realms. Now, I don't know where this being goes. I send him off into the afterlife waiting room, and then wherever it's appropriate for him to go, he will go. But he willingly wanted to leave service. Now, this being had free will. So this is where we come back to the free will thing. So was this a jinn? Or was it a defector demonic entity? Oh my goodness, it spins the brain. Could have been either. I mean, it doesn't really matter. As long as I help them and away they go and they're happy. But as humans, we're never ever going to understand all of the energy beings that are around us. So also, you're going to love this. This isn't a story, it's just a memory about a family member who's not alive now, so I can share it. I had a family member who told me to my face that I worked with the jinn. Now, this was my dad. My dad very rarely said anything. Very private man. He didn't share his religious beliefs. He had very broad religious beliefs from over his 75 years of living. And for him to come out with that, oh my God, he was looking at his computer and he turned to me and he looked at me. We're the only two people in the room. He looked at me and he said, "You work with the jinn." I just sat there. I think I might have been mid-30s. I didn't know what to say. I honestly just didn't know what to say. He looked at me, he said it, then he went back to looking at his computer. I don't think he needed an answer. He just needed to make the statement. you work with the jinn, I'm wondering whether he actually saw a jinn being around me. Because in those days, I didn't have very good energetic protection. Or this is another perspective. Oh, I'm just going to add more and more and more until you just go, I don't know what to think. Oh, I knew this episode was going to be a bit of a brain spin. Now, something else I found when I was looking online, I spent many, many, many hours researching. There is something called a jinn companion. Now, I'm probably going to say it wrong, but I'm just going to say it. It looks like Quareen or Quareen, Quareen. Now, the Quareen is mentioned in the Hadith, which is an ancient Islamic. It is a selection of written documents. I just don't want to say the wrong words, so I don't want to offend anyone. If I get it wrong, send me a fan mail message and I'll make the corrections. So the Quareen is a spiritual jinn companion, because Quareen means companion or friend in Islam. Now, these Quareens are assigned to people at birth. So this got me wondering, are these Quareens, are these like what we call guardian angels? I mean, a lot of people believe in angels, and a lot of the people from Islamic or Middle Eastern countries would believe in the jinn and the Quareen as being their companion or friend for life, sort of assigned to them from birth. So are they a type of guardian? When I read more into it, I thought that sounded great. I went, wow, that looks really good. And then as I read more and more, it said that the jinn companion can be a tempter of sinful, evil choices. A little bit like what I mentioned earlier, a little bit like that little devil that sits on your shoulder, whispering in your ears, tempting you and leading you astray. During our kind of lifelong spiritual battle, which it is, living on the earth is just like a battlefield, to better ourselves through our thoughts, our words, our actions, our choices. Now, this is my aha moment I mentioned earlier. While researching this episode, I came across a reference to jinn, human feces, and public toilet amenities. Now, anyone that follows this podcast hopefully would have listened to episode 141. This is a real-life experience from a couple that I know north of Tasmania. Angela had an experience in a public toilet block here in Tasmania. Now, was this a jinn that she came across? Louis, who is Angela's partner, said it took him 3 tries to get this entity to leave, which I thought was rather unusual because I've shared my basic energy clearing process with Louis because he does a lot of energy clearing. And it's just easier sometimes to teach people how to do it for themselves. So Louis had a go, which I'm really, really proud of him for doing that. He had a go and he said to me it took him 3 times to get this entity to leave. Whereas normally, when it's a demonic entity, you go through the process, poof, off they go. Gone, left, go wherever they go, back out in the environment or back to the demonic headquarters. So if you're interested in hearing Angela's rather strange and unsettling experience, it's not frightening, it's just a little bit odd. I had to make it into an episode. I seriously did. Check out episode 141. I think you will find it rather interesting. Now we're going to look at the difference. We're going to compare a jinn's weaknesses compared to a demonic weakness. Because remember, they're 2 different types of energy beings. But what I found when I looked online, jinn are said to fear iron and wolves. But we're going to focus on iron because iron was mentioned a lot. Iron to jinn is like kryptonite to Superman. It weakens them. And they can't perform their usual superpowers. Also, saying certain prayers or verses from the Quran can really repel jinn. And also, this was mentioned, on a lesser note, jinn can also be warded off by certain scents, certain fragrances, such as musk-like oils and perfumes, which I found rather interesting. So if we look at demons are repulsed and weakened by religious sacramental items. Items such as holy water, imprecatory prayers that are said by exorcists during the exorcism process, by the crucifix, by the sign of the cross, and also by the name of Jesus. Because the demons are connected to God, remember? That is where they came from. They are fallen angels. I find what repels demons, this is just my opinion, remember, I'm just working from my own experiences from all these years. I find they work well with me with respect. I don't tell demons where to go, what to do, and I do not slay. We do not use the word slayer or hunter with the word demon in front because they do not like it. It really is very disrespectful and it will get you into great big trouble. So I simply treat them with respect when I am employed professionally to clear people, places, objects and so forth. So therefore, they have to abide by, because I'm working for God, if you want to look at it that way, because I work with Archangel Michael when I do a lot of my clearing and Archangel Raphael, because I am representing, how do I put it? I don't want to sound like this isn't ego or pride, but we as human beings, because we're in this reality, we physically represent God through just living in this space. But our connection to God and our words and our intentions of working with the archangels actually do all the clearing and all the work. But they can't be here because their vibration is too different to be able to, I don't know what the word is, you know what I mean. They can't be here in this 3D environment. It is too dense for their high vibrational energy. But they can talk to us, they can show themselves to us, we get flashes of what they look like and feel their beautiful loving energy. That's what I work with. And that's what probably repels the demons, is that I do the clearing work, working for God, so therefore the entities must leave. Simply how it works. So the similarities between jinn and demonic presence and possession can be very, very similar. And there are so many signs and symptoms. It took me 3 whole episodes to talk about them already. I'll give you the numbers for those. So we're not going to talk about signs and symptoms in this episode because jinn presence or possession, signs and symptoms, are very similar to demonic possession, signs and symptoms, which are also crossing into our medical, mental and emotional health conditions. It's all very complex and you've got to know how to unpack it and what to look for. I have a very basic understanding of this, enough for me to be able to do my house clearing work and my energy clearing work. But I always say to people, if I'm working on a person or a pet, the person sees their doctor and then a mental health professional if necessary. The owner of the pet will take their pet to the vet first to rule out any medical issues. And if they come back with, I don't know what's wrong with your dog, it's most likely energetic. So whether it's jinn or demonic, I go in and clear the negative energetic presence of whatever being is present, whatever emotions that have attracted that entity. It's simply what I do. I don't get caught in the detail. I mean, I do get caught in the detail. I have to know what the energy beings are attached to. But I don't question these beings. I don't want them to think that I want to get too friendly. Otherwise, they hang around. Keeps them happy, keeps the level of respect and the universal balance functioning. Oh, the episodes. So if you want to have a look at what the possible signs and symptoms of jinn or demonic presence, now remember, this is after you've seen your doctor and your mental health professional. You could look at episode 42, where I talked a full-on episode about possession, and then episode 104, which was knowing how your body senses, your paranormal senses work. And then episode 105, which was paranormal signs and symptoms in and on the body. Now, what I shared in those 3 episodes is what I've witnessed myself, what I've experienced, but a lot of my clients have shared with me over sort of 30 years plus. So let's look at people online. Oh, people always ask these stupid questions on these forums. People wanted to know if they could use jinn. You never use another energy being. That is just bad news. Those words are just asking for trouble. These people wanted to know if they could use an energy being, such as a jinn, to create revenge against someone, possibly to curse them or cause them bad luck or, break your leg, crash your car. Now, that's just asking for trouble. I know that if people summon dark or demonic entities through magic or occult practices, they are selling their soul to the devil for a reason, because they want these entities to do something for them. So therefore the devil owns their soul. This is just putting it very simply. The devil owns their soul and can do what he likes with them. And that's all come from them being egotistical or power hungry or full of pride or whatever it is. For whatever reason they summoned these entities for, to send them out to hurt others. It is bad, bad news. So with Jinn, they also want something in return, but I don't know what the something is. They talked about this a lot online, but they didn't outline what the something is. I looked at a lot of Islamic pages on forums. That's the best way to go, where I can see people talking and asking questions and answering questions, and I'm like, wow, that's a really good point. That's very valid, and I've all outlined them all below in the description box. But Jinn are like demonic entities. They want something in return. There is always a price to pay. Now, you might end up paying for all of eternity. Who knows what it is that they would want? So you need to play nice. You need to deal with your problems. Don't blame others. Be accountable and keep your ego in check. And this applies to me too. We're always being tested, whether it be from the jinn or the demonic entities or God's testing us all the time, where we're at and how we respond to situations, and have we learned what we need to learn, or do we have to experience something again to get that aha moment to move away from whatever that situation is. And I talked about this, and I'm laughing a lot in this episode tonight because it is just mind-blowing. When I looked at jinn and demonic entities, I'm like, oh, now I've got something else to think about when I do house clearing. Talking about being tested, I shared a whole episode back in episode 138 where I talked about the spiritual war and the eternal battlefield that we're living here on earth. We just have to do our best to make the best choices, the most beneficial choices that we can. And if we make a mistake, we just learn from it and we move forward in a better way. Because we don't want to give jinn or demonic entities a way in. We don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to be vulnerable, whether it's mentally, emotionally, physically. We want to be in control of ourselves. Now, I had someone ask me a question through an email, and this person wanted to know if demons, this person didn't mention jinn, but I'm just going to throw them in there, can demonic entities and jinn read our minds? And I went, now that would be a good topic for next week's episode 145. So we're going to look at, can they access our thoughts, determining our actions, or do they do something else? So join me next week. So stay tuned and we'll have some fun looking at whether dark and demonic entities and the jinn can actually read your mind. And if you like this episode, you want to learn more about the paranormal, I'm always sharing new information that nobody else does. Please hit the subscribe button, send me a comment, send me one of your stories. If you want to share a paranormal experience just with myself, or you would like me to share one of your experiences through my podcast, you can do a voice recording, or you can write out your experience and I will read it exactly as you have written. You can email me at spiritualbeing44@gmail.com. And for information on paranormal house clearing, you can visit my website, Spiritual Being. You will find the address in the description box. And I look forward to sharing this spooky space again with you next week. And remember, life is perfectly paranormal.